Welcome to Utah Lake, Explore More, the official podcast of the Utah Lake Authority. I'm Sam, and in this podcast we'll explore one of Utah's most important natural resources, Utah Lake. We'll talk with recreation experts, community leaders, conservation professionals, and the people who know the lake best. Gotta love when I can't figure out how to even say our intro line here, but that happens sometimes. So appreciate you coming on, Derrick. I have a guest here with me. Again, this is our second interview that we've done as a part of our podcast. Derrick Thurman is an avid sailor on Utah Lake, and sailing is kind of an interesting element of Utah Lake that not a lot of people are aware of, as you and I were chatting about before we got started. And we wanted to kind of do an episode to obviously bring somebody else on, because we always like it when we can do interviews and bring in others, but also to feature something that a lot of people might not be aware of at Utah Lake, right? So thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
And no stress on particular format or anything, but I'd love to kind of pick up where we were chatting a little bit before we started about people not knowing about sailing at the lake, right?
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me that people just are not aware. Like I was mentioning, there's my wife and I were living in Springville at the time, and we met a couple going to church and decided to go have dinner. Their kids are our kids' age, et cetera, right? Figured we'd get to know them. And we're sitting at dinner, and he, like, halfway through the dinner, finally he says, like, hey, I've been meaning to ask you your shirt. And I was like, okay. So I look at my shirt, and I'm wearing one of the greatest lake on earth shirts that we had. I don't know if you remember seeing where he had the, what's it called, the catamaran on it with the sun setting and everything. Yeah. It was one of our first Utah Lake design shirts from, like, 2017. And it says, Utah Lake, greatest lake on earth. And it's the sailing. He's like, people don't actually sail on that lake, right? He's like, you can't, like, I've heard, it turns out he came from out of state. Classic example. Somebody in the county been telling him, oh, like, we don't go there. We don't go to that lake.
Yeah.
And he literally did not know people sailed on the lake. And I was like, no, dude, like, there's a sailing school. There's a huge community. I've been out a couple of times with them. Super peaceful. It's an awesome event. He's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I had no idea. And I bet you get that a lot from people too, being one of the sailors on the lake.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I've had a lot of people that have seen, some of the videos that I posted and things that I posted. We have a little group that you know of, Utah Lake Sailors, and people reach out all the time, and they're like, I had no idea. I associated with the Great Salt Lake or Bear Lake, and all of a sudden now I'm like, wait, there's people sailing on Utah Lake, or they just so happen to visit, the state park, and they see sailboats out on the water, and and then it's like, wait a minute, you guys you're sailing here? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, look how big the lake is. It has tons of room. And, I think a lot of people associate the shallower water maybe with not associated with sailing as much. But
sure,
I mean, my boat drafts 4 feet, and most of the lake is more than 4 feet.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Right now we're at more than 4 feet average.
Yeah, I'm still able to sail even with the lower water years out of the state park. And so I think that may play a part in it. But a lot of people that are moving from out of state, they all, grew up on the coast, and of course they sailed on the coast, and they come here, and it's like almost like whenever they reach out to me, they're like, I had no idea. This is amazing. Like, where can I get involved? I want to get a slip. I want to go to the school, or can you take me out?
Sure.
And so, yeah, it's been pretty wild, and I'd say it's accelerated. It's been when I first started sailing on the lake, which was, I started sailing back in 2018, 2019-ish.
Sounds about right from what I remember, yeah.
Yeah, and it's only accelerated. So, I mean, every year it's like I see more and more people that are interested in sailing at Utah Lake and, want to be part of the group.
Sure,
So,
yeah. I always love when I run into somebody from Bonneville School of Sailing, and they've got another class of whatever it is, 3 or 4 people going out. I think you sometimes teach with them, right? Or
no.
There's a couple. You don't? Okay, I know there's a couple of sailors.
No, I did tell Todd one time. He runs Bonneville Sailing, and I said, maybe if you ever do like an advanced course, I may be interested.
You don't want to scare him off on an accident.
What did he say to me? He says, I think I would take that class with you. And I was like, you don't need to take that class. Yes, I do. And I'm like, oh, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Todd and Louise
funny.
are great. For anybody listening, Bonneville School of Sailing, you can check out their website. They're concessionaire at the state park at Utah Lake. The Provo Marina here, it's our largest marina on the lake. And they do sailing classes and charters. And there's a few others that do it as well. But they're a great start for learning about sailing, right? I love their passion for teaching people. So that's always fun. I do chuckle, though, to your comment about advanced. When people talk about Utah Lake and recreation, I feel like the lake gets a bad rap for the wind. And don't get me wrong, I agree 100% that there is concerns with it, right? Like the fact that people don't realize that Utah Lake is 32 times larger than Deer Creek, they don't think about the fact, oh, I'm miles from a marina, not feet or yards.
Yeah.
I'm pretty far away. So there is risk. But I also like to say that I feel like the sailors are the ones who are going out when everybody else is coming in.
That's exactly what happens. Like I try to sail like 2 to 3 times a week during the summer month. Well, when the season starts, I should say, not the summer. But and yeah, if it's going to be a good wind day, and you know how it is there. It can flip on a dime.
Oh yeah, really quick.
It can go from flat calm to 25 to 30 knots of wind in a matter of 5 minutes or less. And so, whenever the wind picks up, all the wake boats are coming in and all the sailors are going out.
Heading out
and
on
it's, it's really funny just seeing that. But yeah, I mean, the lake, I associate it with, like you said, the vastness of it, which for sailors, that's really awesome. If you want to, have a nice leisure tack in one direction, you can go in one direction for, 2 hours at least, And so, like from here, or from the state park over to Pelican Point south, the Saratoga Marina. I mean, on a fast day, you're making it there in about an hour and a half from Provo.
Okay.
Depending on the wind angles and of course all that other stuff. But yeah, and that's really the attraction to the lake for a lot of us sailors is you're not doing these little switchbacks all the time like you would at Deer Creek or. Jordanelle is a little bit bigger, but even there, I've sailed Jordanelle, and yeah, that was one of my things I didn't like about it. Is I'm like, man, I feel like I'm always having to change course. So you get to one side, then you got to go back.
Well, and with how high usage they get too, we were driving down. We were coming back from Vernal last week on a trip, my wife and kids and I, and Deer Creek literally was bumper boats.
It looks like I-15 traffic.
It was crazy. Yeah. And like literally, I'm pretty sure it was that what is it? It's that corner south of the Island Resort where it kind of starts to hook back towards the highway. They literally were all just stopped.
Yeah.
Like 50 yards ish from each other. I was like, can anybody even boat? Like, could you even pull somebody on a for water skiing safely?
Yeah, like,
it's crazy.
When you're on a sailboat at Deer Creek, you're like always dodging, and a lot of people don't realize the right of way that sailboats have over powered vessels.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's like it's so chaotic. The sailors are just trying to avoid people, even though they technically have right of way. But that's the attraction to Utah Lake. And I've been on Utah Lake on the busiest of days, and it's like you get out away from the marina, and I mean, you've got people probably scattered within a mile of each other, or even further. And so, it really, the vastness and the size really works to our benefit. And we like the wind, of course, there. It does come with a little bit bumpier ride. The waves kick up. It's notorious for, pretty bad close, what's the word I'm looking for?
The fetch on the waves?
The fetch on the waves. They tend to be closer together because of the shallowness of the lake.
It's almost like you're washboarding on a dirt road.
The period of the waves. But, being all the years that I've sailed, you just can't really replace that. The only lake that even comes close to that would be like a Bear Lake or a Great Salt Lake. And Great Salt Lake, as you know, I mean, it's so low now.
Yeah, it's going to be almost impossible
You can't even get a boat out of the harbor. Yeah. And Bear Lake's so far away. I mean, that's my big draw to the lake is, I live in Sandy. I can be to my boat in about 35 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on traffic.
And on the water.
And on the water.
And for people who live in Utah, like I live in Vineyard, right? Like I'm, don't sail, but like for me to paddleboard is what I do a lot of. I literally like 3 minutes in my car and I'm on the shoreline, right, with my paddle equipment. So I agree with you. The scope of the lake is a huge attraction, right? Like 150 square miles, the third largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi as far as surface area goes. There's tons of room.
Yep.
And then the proximity to home is a huge draw as well. And also just the fact that like how close some of them are, like so the state park and Linden Marina are literally, you get off I-15, you go straight out to the lake and you're done, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy to get to the lake. I'd be curious with what you were sharing about going out in wind events. Like, do you have any memorable experiences of like either good or I'd even take a bad one of like just a crazy story of what happened while you were sailing out on the lake?
I mean, that lake, I mean, I sail the ocean a lot as well. And, I've had some of the most exciting sails on Utah Lake. I've had great sailing on the ocean as well, and there's a lot to that too. But I mean, I like to call it, like, for me, like, it's where you, like, the proving grounds, if you will, for me. Like,
Okay.
people will say, like, oh, well, isn't the ocean, like, really crazy? And I'm like, Utah Lake's pretty wild, you know? Like, if you want to get ready for the ocean, that's the perfect place to do it.
Okay.
Because of the different types of conditions. Like, but I've had both. I've had really great events, or, you know, times there on my boat, and I've had really crazy things that have happened. I had an event, it was probably about 2 years ago, and, you know, we went out. It was like early May.
Okay.
And it was during that time when we had that really big water year. So it was like, I guess that was maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yep.
And the lake was totally full. And we were getting a lot of weather events, April and May. And we were out there as a family, and, you know, the weather changed. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, we went from partly cloudy skies to, okay, we got some dark clouds. And that is a thing that you do have to be mindful of, is when you get far away from the marina, you're not minutes away in a sailboat, you're hours away.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, let's head back. And, you know, it just deteriorated pretty fast. And I saw a squall, a white squall coming across the lake. And I'm like, okay, I better, like, reef the sails. So I pulled in my head sail completely and just had a reefed mainsail. And this thing just came, and it hit like a brick to the face. And the boat literally just leaned way over. Oh. The wind came with it. And it's like, it's hard to explain, of course, you'd have to be there. But I mean, the raindrops were like this big. And I was out there just trying to keep the boat steady and through it. And it was just full on downpour. And there was another boat that was caught out in it. And then we had lightning strike us. We didn't see lightning at the time, but the squall came pretty fast, and then the lightning accompanied, and it struck probably within a mile of us.
Oh, that's got to be.
And that was
really cool, but really scary.
It was like, it's a learning experience, you know. You're like, well, okay. I mean, it's interesting. The longer you sail, you learn to kind of deal with it. With sailboats, you can't outrun storms, and if you get caught in them, and this is the ocean too. I mean,
you got to learn to weather.
You have to learn to weather the storm, so you just make sure you're as prepared as possible. And then, you know, like, good times. I mean, this is one of my favorite things to do, is there's a lot of wind that comes either from the southwest or the northwest.
Sure, yeah.
And if it comes out of the northwest, I mean, it's a full beam all the way out to Bird Island. And so I will leave Provo, put the sails up, and fly down to Bird Island and go around it. Some of my most memorable experiences have been I've been down and around that island in a matter of like 2 hours or so. Like, normally it takes quite a bit of time, but you get a good northwest wind and you're flying down there. And it's like, I'd almost consider it like my Utah Lake race course, if you will. We actually have done races around that island.
I was going to say, speaking of races, I think I'd heard, isn't there a challenge you guys do? I think it's every year. It's like 24-hour sail or something like that.
Yeah, there's a 24-hour. So there's the 24-hour sail, and the current record, I want to say, is around 100 miles, nautical miles. You have to track it. Everything has to be tracked on we use Navionics typically to track. It tells all the stats you'd need to know. Yeah. And it'll show the lake with all your tracks and stuff. We do that. We've done Bird Island races. There's not necessarily a specific record for that one. There are records from like Linden to American Fork Harbor, Linden to Pelican, Point Marina. There's the 24-hour. There's also a circumnavigation. I haven't done mine this year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to with the lower water, because
I kind of doing the outside edge of the lake as much as you can on
what
that one,
you do is the challenge is to visit every single marina within a 24-hour period. And so you go out and you sail to every single marina. And what we did the first 2 years, we did it, and this is still kind of the case, you pull into the marina and take a picture at the dock to prove you were there. Okay. And then you go sail to the next place and then take a picture at the dock with your boat. And like I rushed it one year where like I'd pull into the harbor, and whatever the wind angle was, like I'd point the boat into the wind and leave the sail up. And like, hurry, take a picture and then jump in, and we're going to the next marina. It was like, try to go as fast as possible.
That's great.
That year was a really memorable year too, because it took me, I want to say it was like 15 or 16 hours. I ended up spending the night on the boat overnight, and like I left and there was like barely any wind. It took me forever to get from Provo from Utah Lake State Park up to Linden.
Mm-hmm.
It was so bad I threw a fishing pole out and caught a fish. That's how slow the sailing was. And then I get to Linden and a big old storm rolls in and the conditions deteriorate. And so I ended up spending the night on the boat that night in Linden Harbor. And then the next morning I got up and the wind was fantastic, and I sailed over to American Fork real quick, and then I beelined over to Pelican, and then I left Pelican Point and went down to Lincoln Beach Marina. And that marina is, it's really narrow.
True. And it's a hard turn coming in.
But that was such a fun leg of the trip because I was going like almost dead downwind, so I threw a big old spinnaker out and just bombed down there. And that's a long way from Pelican around down. You go around
stretch.
Pelican Point itself and then go down to Lincoln, went down there and then back to the state park. There's another part of that too where you can visit Bird Island. That's a little trickier though, because you got to anchor, you got to have something to go ashore. It's a little trickier.
I love that you guys have organized all these, because it's all tracked and documented.
Oh yeah, I have an Excel sheet that's traveled through many people that have been on the lake for longer than I have, and
that's great.
I mean, there's been record holders from like Peter Jorgensen held the record for the 24-hour. Chad Chorniak did. It's currently held by a person named Andy Mays. He used to sail Utah Lake and moved back east. But
somebody's got to beat that record.
Everybody keeps telling me to do it and do the record, and I'm like, I probably could, but I really like sleeping in my bed when I can.
Gotta be committed for that.
I will tell you this though. Also, I mean, night sailing on the lake is amazing.
I've heard it's really pretty.
Yeah, I mean, you go out there under a full moon and you can see like everything on the water. And then you got the city surrounding you too, and it's an amazing experience. If anybody's a sailor and hasn't done that, I'm always encouraging them to go do it.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and
imagine it's already peaceful sailing during the day. I can only imagine how much more peaceful at night.
Well, and especially when it gets
light, less traffic.
Well, it gets hot in the summer, and at night it's like perfect temperature. You just got to be mindful of the bugs, the midges sometimes.
Sure.
And it's really interesting with them. Sometimes I've gone out during the summer and it's like there's no bugs at all. And sometimes it's like they swarm you, but it depends on the wind and stuff.
Sure.
Stuff too.
It's probably complicated. That is fascinating, Derrick. This has been super helpful and great and really interesting from here, because every time I think I know about a topic at Utah Lake, I talk with somebody like yourself who's there more than I am. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like a novice. I know almost nothing, right?
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share kind of as a wrap up, because we try to keep these concise and how we do it, and I'd love to have you potentially in the future again. But for sailors, for anybody who's thinking about sailing, and even general advice on Utah Lake, how would you recommend, or I guess I should say, what would you recommend for safely recreating on the lake, right? We talked at the beginning about the wind can be dangerous and stuff. What would you sum up for people of like, hey, if you're aware of these things, it's going to help keep you safe?
I think the best thing, so if they're new to sailing, period, I always recommend, learning how to sail, go through the proper training. It's not for the faint at heart, obviously. There's a lot to it. You can get into trouble very fast. For people that are already sailors that want to get involved, really the best advice I would say is learn the lake, learn how it works, learn the topography of the water. I mean, there's places around Bird Island you just do not go as a sailor. You will run aground.
Oh, yeah.
You know about those.
Oh, yeah. There's that big, long tail that likes to stick its way out.
I call it the spit. And like there are areas where there are hazards, known hazards, but they're not exactly marked. And so knowing the weather and knowing the lake itself is extremely important. I mean, I've seen boats go so close to shoreline and, and I'm out there and looking at my depth gauge and it says 5 feet and they're like really close to shore, and so it's really understanding the lake and then, be aware, man, the weather can really deteriorate fast there if you're not careful. Plan around all of that. And if you if you need the information, you guys have the information. We have it on Utah Lake Sailors. We're constantly discussing the lake and the conditions and what marinas are best for which sailboats. And I mean, we go full sailboat in that group. So that's for sure. That's more of the sailboat side of things. But yeah, just really try to understand all of that. and you'll have success.
I think it's a good opportunity too to shout out the Windy Lookout app. I know is really helpful
Yes.
for that. Of the too many people don't
Yes.
pay attention to the weather and get caught off guard, but
Yep.
the fact that the Windy Lookout app developed for Utah Lake actually proactively notifies people, I think is a
Yes.
big difference.
Honestly, I feel like I'm cheating when I use it, kind of, because I'm so used to not having it in other places that it's like, oh yeah, I can just look and see exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And even then, like, I know that they keep historicals on all of that data too, so you can, like, I've gotten to a place where I'll go look at the historical data to figure out when I can expect wind when it may not be predicted. Like you kind of
sure.
learn the patterns of the winds there. And so like there's in the summer months, for example, like early morning Spanish Fork winds between the hours of about 5 a.m. and about 10 to 11 a.m. in the heat of the summer, you can get really, really good winds out of that canyon blowing right across the south, the southeastern end of the lake.
Sure.
So that Bird Island run that I was talking about, now you're running to Bird Island and it's a perfect angle. And then, like learning the predominant winds there helps, things like that. So
Those are all great suggestions, man. I appreciate that. And I
Yeah.
think it's also good that people realize there's a couple resources we talked about, right? Like the Windy Lookout app, they can check for weather. We mentioned Bonneville School of Sailing, right? If they want to do an official course and learn how to sail.
Yep.
The Utah Lake Sailors Facebook group that I believe anybody's welcome to join, right?
Yep.
Even if they're starting to sail. And they hold events. We didn't even get to the Utah Lake Regatta that's held,
Yeah,
the Sailing
yeah.
Summer Series, the Summer Sailstice. There's so many things going on. I
Yep.
love that about this community, that there are all of these events and challenges and opportunities to learn. The Winter Sailing Seminar, right,
Yeah.
that I've spoken at before. There's tons of opportunities to learn about sailing. So I really encourage anybody listening to make sure to check out some of those resources.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Derrick.
for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Utah Lake Explore More. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Utah Lake, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, get outside, explore more, and we'll see you at the lake.